Hello and welcome to 1913. So, I'm going to admit something. For those of you who skipped 1912 to avoid what's coming, well, you didn't skip it. It's actually in 1913. It was my little joke. You might want to go back and watch 1912. So, let's start off with, first thing in 1913, HMS Tiger. Yeah. She's a good ship. She has got 13.5-inch guns, so you can say, well, does she fit the battlecruiser form as the British are building the Queen Elizabeth class? Yes. Quite simple. Yes. Why? Because they're also building the Iron Dukes at the same point, and there are the King George V's under construction at the same time. There are lots of 13.5-inch armed battleships being produced at the same time as this. It's a battleship gun. Now, she has 39 water tube boilers, backing at 85,000 shaft horsepower. She can get a top speed of 28 knots. That's all good. And as you can see, has a good all-round armament. And I do like the gapping between the aft guns. It does give them a certain space. I could imagine her festooned in a lot of AA weapons in those various spaces, but we'll leave that to one side. She has a similar belt to other British battlecruisers at the time. Remember, the British are emphasising the speed and firepower portions of the triangle over the armour one in their battlecruiser design, and this does affect what they're for. As you can see, there's also a hits chart for Dogger Bank here. She is a well-armed all-rounder. And the British are building battlecruisers at this point. She's the battlecruiser from the Iron Duke build, though, not the battlecruiser from the Queen Elizabeth class build. The reason is the Queen Elizabeths are fast battleships. Although, saying that, we'll be getting into the discussion of the Queen Elizabeth class HMS Agincourt in one of these videos, and there is a potential there. And yes, I'm now going to apologise. Not. If I have to see the ugliness, you have to see it. The Normandy class. Yes, you thought it was only the Americans who thought about putting quadruple turrets facing aft on their ships. No, no, no. The French do it even earlier. Ay, caramba. Yes, she does. I have no words to describe this design. All I can say is that one eventually sees service as a burn, and frankly, and this shocks me more than it shocks anyone else, the burn is probably more useful as an aircraft carrier, as terrible as an aircraft carrier she is, than she would have been as a battleship looking at these designs. 12 13.4-inch guns in 3 quadruple turrets. Well, I suppose if she is running away, you are going to be well armed to fight someone behind you. But actually, her biggest problem is she's a top speed of 21 knots. And yeah, they have now reached the point where they can equal the firepower broadside of almost of an Italian battleship. After all, the Italians have 13 12-inch guns. They now have the French are now talking about 12 13.4-inch guns. None of these ships will ever actually enter service. This is the real point. They also have armour which is not too far off German battlecruiser armour. So I'm not sure about their qualities as a battleship, but they're what the French are building. Ah, USS Arizona. Pennsylvania class. Now, 12 14-inch guns. Oh. Hello. Yes. We are talking 4 treble turrets. So, the Americans' response to the Queen Elizabeth class is quite swift. We will have 4 treble turrets. Because if we've got 12 14-inch guns, and you've only got 8 15-inch guns, then we're going to have a heavier broadside than you. And we don't have to develop new guns or anything, because we already have them in. We don't even have to develop new turrets, we already had a treble turret. We just have to put 4 of them rather than 2 of them and 2 double turrets. It shows the technology the Americans had already been developing and why there's a technological race going on. Top speed of 21.38 knots means that the Queen Elizabeth still have an edge in speed. So it's sort of it's a gaming fight between the two. Honestly, I have a feeling the edge in speed would tell in a free-flowing fight, but if they manage to get the British in some sort of waters where you cannot manoeuvre as well, where you don't have much space, there will be a problem for the British. It's the classic fight. A knight can outmaneuver a rook, but if you get in the line of the rook, the knight don't stand a chance. Here is the German response to the Queen Elizabeth class. The Bayans. Oh, let's see. 8 15-inch guns. Well, I suppose they've got 15-inch, but again, it's uninspiring, and it's a 21 knot speed, so yeah, you've got the same firepower, you've got the same top speed as Dreadnought, and what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you... It's going to sound... This sounds terrible. Okay, so we've got the same firepower as the Queen Elizabeth class, but they can outpace us consistently. This is a response. They are supposed to be the challenger, challenging the British. This is not a challenge. In many respects, that is more the equivalent of the Revenge class. And I would argue that the Americans' low-key response of just adding 2 extra 14-inch guns onto their existing design, basically, enables the British to build the Revenge class. Because if the Americans had responded by going, okay, yeah, we've now got 8 16-inch guns, or 10 16-inch guns, or God help us, 12 16-inch guns, the British would have been forced to technologically go up again. But they don't. So the British can afford to go numbers. Revenge class. They're going to have 21 knots. They're going to have 8 15-inch guns. They're going to have very nice armour. Again, a belt of 13 inches. The Bayan has a belt between 6.7 and 13.8 inches. So in some places it's thicker, but in other places it isn't. The British still have more boilers needed to get theoretically similar speeds. This will get to 40,000 shaft horsepower for top speed, apparently. Sorry. Of 21 knots. And they are lovely ships when they're built. As I said, they don't have much space for upgrading. Again, if we go back to the Queen Elizabeth design, you can see the space in her hull, the space in her design. She is 196.2 meters long. When we look at the Revenge class, yes, it's 7 meters less, but that looks a far more crowded design than the Queen Elizabeth's. It's a shame the British hadn't gone for the treble turrets. Honestly, if the British had, I don't know, treble 15s on the Queen Elizabeth and the Revenge class, they would have been annihilatory. But again, the British emphasis is on number of hulls. So you're going for the double turrets, because the double turrets are cheaper and you can churn out more. You go for the larger turrets when you cannot get number of hulls, which is why the German concentration on double turrets doesn't make sense. Now, I've done some discussions in the past about Salamis, so I'm not going to get into too many details about her, because I gave her a lot of content previously. But she is rather cool. She is. She's very pretty. And she would have been lovely. Unfortunately, the guns are coming from America because Germany doesn't have the industrial capacity to really build the guns as well as build the hull. So they're assembling her, and the guns don't end up getting there in World War II, in World War One. Instead, they end up providing the Abercrombie class, I think it is, monitors with guns. And this all gets us back to this point. So, we are now in 1913, and as you can see, the British are accelerating away hard. The Germans are trying to play catch-up. Spain has got one in the water. The Americans are doing well. We won't talk about the French. Japan's doing well. All sorts of countries are involved. The Dreadnought and a Dreadnought race, especially the Dreadnought technological race, is far larger than just two nations. So when you start talking about it as if it is just two nations, you miss out on so much of the detail. You miss out on the fact that a Tiger-class battlecruiser... Really? She's not being designed with a North Sea in mind. The British designing the battlecruisers to go out around the world and hoover up enemy trade, enemy battlecruisers, enemy cruisers, make sure the world is safe for their trade to carry on perfectly fine. I'm not sure what the French are designing this for. I honestly... I have gone through all the rationales they have, and I don't accept any of them. I think they just are obsessed with the idea of a quadruple turret or something. The Pennsylvania class. Gorgeous. It's a simple, understated response. Because, in the nicest way, who in the world, other than the British, are building ships which justify America having 12, 14-inch guns on a battleship? No one. But oh, you're not comfortable. But it's not a race. It's not a race as in we're building more ships than you. It's a tech race. It's a who can build the best looking battleship? Who can build the best battleship? Sorry, if I've gone white, someone's just suggested, sent me a question, because could you refer to a 3-pounder Hotchkiss gun as a pom-pom? 3-pounder guns are not are saluting guns. Anyway, leaving that to one side. The armour, everything of the Pennsylvania class is about their status. It's about the Americans going, we're a coming naval power, but we're not a threatening naval power. We're building our navy so we're strong in our area. Also, have you seen what the Brazilians, Chileans and Argentinians are building? Admittedly, we're building the Argentinians for them, but seriously? We need battleships. At one point, the Brazilians have the more powerful fleet than we do. We're going to quickly go cry somewhere. But also, what you notice between the American and British designs is there is a pooling of technology. The companies and etc. things are being shared. Turbine designs are going backwards and forwards. Boiler designs are going backwards and forwards. There's all sorts of things going on. So it's done in a way which doesn't get aggression raised up. And again, Queen Elizabeth can outpace this ship any day of the week. But it does have 12 14-inch guns, so it's also not something which a Queen Elizabeth class can ignore. If they're going to fight, it's going to be a big fight. And the Americans have done it without upping the ante. They have given themselves a credible deterrent without upping the ante. The Bayern class is not a credible deterrent. It looks on paper. Oh, we've got 8 15-inch guns as well. We can do 21 knots. So we have the same firepower, but less speed. So theoretically, with their advantage of speed, can they turn RT? Potentially. Pardon me. And there's the fact is, you might well be being pinned by a Revenge class while you've got a Queen Elizabeth class coming around on you. They are perfectly adequate for what the British need to do. But again, the British are building another class of 15-inch ships. And they actually are ordering 8, which with the 6 theoretically ordered and planned Queen Elizabeths would mean 14 15-inch gun battleships. That's going to make people cry. So in all, the world is complicated. The world is messy. That's fine. And Dreadnoughts in 1913 are a good example of this, because in 1913, the world is messy. They are ordering these ships, they are making these ships, but they don't know what's coming. Not that long away, not that far away, they do not know what's over the horizon. Especially not the Germans. They all think they've got time. They all think they're winning the deterrence game. They all think they're big and scary. The question is, are you big and scary enough? That's always the question with deterrence. Are you big enough and scary enough? So, that's why in June we've got coming up to close blockade or distant blockade. Got a bit of a theme going on at the moment. Monitors, Dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, blockades, Coastal Command, Age of Iron, Age of Empires. It all seemed to fit together. And Big Gun era. So thank you to everyone who's watched the videos. Thank you to everyone who likes the videos. Thank you to everyone who sits through me recording the videos and keeps me company. Thank you to everyone who's pressed the little bell down there to get alerted when there's a live. It's always nice. And thank you to everyone who's on Discord having a chat. Thank you to everyone who's on Patreon who's funding my research. Thank you. You really are critical. I hope you have a nice day.